want a war, you're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs from my generation. I'll take the fall, the saints, and across the nation. And it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Welcome back to Reliving the War, the show where we compare each match and segment from the Monday Night Wars. It's June 17th, 1996. The WWF continued to show matches from Fayetteville, North Carolina, while WCW Nitro is live tonight from the Richmond Coliseum in Virginia. The Great American Bash took place the previous night, so let's take a look at the pay-per-view results before checking out the first 60 minutes of Monday Nitro. The 1996 Great American Bash took place on June 16th, live from the Baltimore Arena. The Steiner brothers opened up the show with a win over Fire and Ice. It went over 10 minutes this time, and it was the best match these two teams had together. Conan defeated the El Gato Capture Card in around 6 minutes to retain the US title, and Diamond Dallas Page continued his push with a win over Marcus Bagwell. Rey Mysterio Jr. then started off his WCW career with an excellent match against Dean Malenko. The two men were given nearly 20 minutes here, and it was a great showcase of Rey's in-ring abilities. The match ended when Mysterio went for a Hurricane Rana, but Malenko countered with a powerbomb. Malenko had to use the middle rope for leverage. John Tenta then defeated Big Bubba, and Bubba also got his beard trimmed after the match. Nobody really cared. And then Chris Benoit defeated Kevin Sullivan in their Falls Count Anywhere match when Benoit superplexed Sullivan from a table set up on the top turnbuckle. Arn Anderson attacked Sullivan after the match, finally solidifying that this relationship between the Dungeon of Doom and the Four Horsemen was truly over. Sting vs Lord Steven Regal was up next, and Regal tapped out to the Scorpion Deathlock. This was another good match that's worth checking out. Big Steve McMichael completely screwed his partner in their tag team match when Kevin Green got smacked with Mongo's briefcase. Ric Flair then pinned Kevin Green, and Steve Mongo McMichael became a member of the Four Horsemen. Strap yourselves in, this is going to be a bumpy ride. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were then interviewed by Eric Bischoff. Hall and Nash were forced to admit that they do not work for the WWF at the beginning of the promo. The WWF had legitimately begun legal proceedings against WCW for trademark infringement, defamation, slander, and unfair competition. The WWF felt that Nash and Hall were using characters that the WWF created in WCW. The World Wrestling Federation owned the Razor Ramon and Diesel characters, and so Nash and Hall had to stop acting like Razor Ramon and Diesel. Eric got Hall and Nash to say on pay-per-view, not on TV, on pay-per-view where there would be less people watching, that they did not work for the WWF, and this was done to show the courts that this storyline had apparently nothing to do with the World Wrestling Federation, but you can see what they were playing at here. Bischoff tells Hall and Nash that they have their match. It's going to take place at Bash at the Beach in Daytona, and it's going to be a 3-on-3 match. Hall and Nash say they have another guy waiting, and the Outsiders want to know who they're going to face at the pay-per-view. When Bischoff doesn't answer, he gets powerbombed from the stage through a table. The main event of the evening featured Lex Luger taking on the Giant for the WCW title. Luger tried to put Giant in the torture rack, but his back gave way. The Giant then hit the chokeslam, and the Giant retained the title. Not a great main event by any means. The pay-per-view is worth a watch though. Malenko vs Mysterio is the match of the night, and the stuff with the Outsiders is also pretty interesting. Tony Schiavone and the living legend Larry Zbyszko recap the Great American Bash results when Nitro comes on the air. Rick Steiner took on Stevie Ray in the opening match, and Rick got the win with a Steiner line. It was quite a short bout, but it was still fun to watch. Booker T hit the ring afterwards to attack the dog-faced gremlin, but Scotty Steiner came down to protect his brother, taking all the impact of Booker T's top rope move in the process. Disco Inferno then managed to pin Joe Gomez. Disco spent the majority of the match fixing his hair, and then we had an interview with Ric Flair, woman Elizabeth, and Deborah McMichael. Deborah says that she and Mongo joined forces with Ric Flair for the money, and the Nature Boy acknowledges that the Macho Man Randy Savage has been reinstated by WCW, and he acknowledges the fact that Savage is coming back for Elizabeth and his money. Flair says the Macho Man will find out tonight why they called Slick Rick the Nature Boy during their one-on-one match. The American males fell victim to Horsemen Arn Anderson and Chris Benoit. The Crippler was sporting some bruises after his match with Sullivan at the Great American Bash. This one was very good too, and it's worth going back to watch. It's around 6 minutes long and it features a lot of action. Benoit in particular had a great match here. John Tenta then defeated Big Bubba in a Great American Bash rematch, and after taking the loss, Bubba nails Tenta several times with a loaded sock. The sock was filled with quarters. As previously mentioned, Randy Savage has been reinstated, and Savage ends the first 60 minutes of Nitro by telling Ric Flair he's going to take his time beating up the Nature Boy tonight in the middle of the ring, and there isn't a man in WCW who can remove the macho madness from the company. The unopposed hour point goes to Nitro this week. I'm excited to see Flair versus Savage, and knowing that we have King of the Ring quarter-final matches on Raw when the tournament itself has been pretty lackluster so far, that itself would have given me little incentive to switch over to Raw. Okay, let's get comparing then. Raw kicks things off with Steve Austin versus Savio Vega in a King of the Ring quarter-final match, while Nitro presents Ric Flair versus the Macho Man Randy Savage. Austin rushes Savio Vega right at the opening bell. Savio stops Austin in his tracks with an enziguri, and we think Stone Cold is taking a timeout on the outside, but the sly Texas Rattlesnake grabs Savio and Vega's leg gets rammed into the ring post. Stone Cold then proceeds to focus on Savio's knee and ankle before Savio gets sent to the outside of the ring. And Vince McMahon uses this opportunity to run down tonight's card. We have 2 more King of the Ring quarter-final matches tonight on Raw, and Jake Roberts is once again in the main event. Savio then gives Austin a taste of his own medicine by ramming Stone Cold's leg into the ring post, and McMahon continues to talk about tonight's show. Not only will we hear from the British Bulldog, but we're also going to see the official contract signing of Brian Pillman. That's right, Brian Pillman is now part of the WWF roster. Austin falls to the mat when Savio tries an Irish whip. Both men are now dealing with injured legs, and I appreciate that they tried to tell a bit of a story here instead of going through the motions. Austin takes a massive bump when Savio Vega lifts him up by the legs while Stone Cold holds onto the ropes in the corner. This looked pretty good, and Savio applies an ankle lock, but Austin manages to quickly fight his way out of the hold. Stone Cold is then able to launch Vega into the turnbuckle pad, but Savio replies with a jumping clothesline. More damage is done with a knee breaker, but Savio gets a little too confident when he goes for a jumping splash. Austin manages to get the knees up, and Austin remembers to keep selling the injured limb. Stone Cold continues to hurt himself in order to hurt his opponent, but when we come back from commercial, Austin's sacrifices fail to pay off when Savio moves out of the way and Austin throws himself into the ropes. A slugfest ends with Savio delivering a hard chop, and Vega follows up with a spinning wheel kick. Austin gets his foot on the rope during the pin attempt. Savio then tries to grab Austin from behind, but Stone Cold brings his opponent to the middle of the ring, and then we see it, the first ever Stone Cold Stunner on TV. Austin picks up the win and Stone Cold advances in the King of the Ring tournament. This was a good match. I liked both guys targeting each other's legs. Austin took some big bumps during this bout too, and Savio is simply one of the WWF's most underrated superstars of this era. Good stuff here from the World Wrestling Federation, the best 1996 King of the Ring match so far. Savage versus Flair at this point should have been a pay-per-view match. This showdown had been building up for ages, and here we get to see it on weekly TV. This of course would be a reoccurring theme with WCW Nitro, but let's not complain. Savage chases Bobby Heenan away from the commentary desk, but the Brain returns for duty during Flair's entrance. Tony Schiavone is staying with us this week for the second hour as Eric Bischoff is still feeling the effects of that jackknife powerbomb at the Great American Bash. Slick Rick gets a little heat before the match by telling Savage that every man must experience agony and defeat in their lives, but Savage is experiencing agony, defeat and divorce. Flair then tells a fan to shut his mouth before Savage tells Rick that he's going to kick his ass. The Macho Man then grabs Flair on the outside and we now have a fight. The Macho Man destroys Flair on the outside and Flair doesn't get a chance to take his robe off as Randy continues the assault inside the ropes. A thumb to the eye stops Savage for a moment, but Savage clotheslines Flair over the top rope and the fight spills to the outside again as Nitro takes a break. As soon as we come back, Flair dumps Savage over the top rope and we're brawling again on the outside. Miss Elizabeth slaps Savage across the face and Flair throws the Macho Man over the guardrail, but the unhinged Randy Savage comes right back and the two men fight at Flair's VIP table. After stuffing his opponent's face with those delicious cheesy treats, Randy Savage grabs a champagne bottle, and Tony Schiavone should sue Chris Jericho for gimmick infringement because Schiavone says this.
Oh no, wait a minute, a little bit of the bubbly, a little bit of the bubbly.
A little bit of the bubbly. Flair gets champagne poured all over him and Savage hits Flair with the champagne bottle. The fight gets back inside the ring and the Macho Man takes care of business with a few right hands. More punches get delivered in the corner and we see the Flair flop when Savage hits another big right hand. The turnbuckle bump is next, and I love Flair's reaction to getting sent to the outside once again. He just walks to the guardrail and kicks it in anger. As Savage comes down with a double axe handle, Tony Schiavone says that many WCW superstars have stepped up to go to war with the Outsiders, and later on we're going to find out who will face Hall and Nash at Bash at the Beach. After another commercial break, we come back to see Flair chopping down Savage, but the Macho Man begins no-selling. A back elbow puts Randy down, and there must have been a communication error here when Flair goes to the top rope, and Savage doesn't move. This results in Rick trying to jump over his opponent, and his landing ends up looking a little awkward. The two men trade chops and punches in the corner. Savage hits a back body drop, and he follows up with a double axe handle from the top rope. The referee then stops Savage from attacking Flair in the corner, and this gives Slick Rick the chance to produce a weapon. Savage gets nailed, but it's not enough to end this bout. The grudge match between Randy Anderson and Ric Flair continues, but it ends this time with Anderson taking a bump to the outside. Savage then hits a low blow and Flair falls right in position for the elbow drop. Savage hits his finisher and he goes up for one more. Flair's women try to stop Randy, but Savage pays no attention and the second elbow drop gets delivered. Chris Benoit and Arn Anderson then hit the ring and Savage cleans house. But the sheer power of Steve McMichael and his briefcase is too much for the Macho Man. Savage gets smacked and Randy Anderson wakes up. Ric Flair wins via pinfall. After the bout, the Horsemen attack Savage and the segment comes to an end. This was an excellent TV match from WCW. Vega vs Austin was good, but Savage vs Flair was simply better. Point for Nitro. Next up, we have a Dungeon of Doom promo while Marc Mero takes on Owen Hart over on Raw. Steve Austin joins the commentary team for this King of the Ring quarter-final match, and I expect a good bout here between these two. Owen is still rocking the cast, and when Mero brings Owen to the corner, the King of Hearts immediately begins complaining that Mero was grabbing his injured limb. A drop toe hold and side headlock from Owen results in Mero reversing with a hammerlock. Both men get to their feet and Mero delivers a hip toss. Owen again complains to the referee and it looks like he's refusing to wrestle for a moment. Owen shouts at a fan to shut up because he has an injured arm. Great stuff as always from the King of Hearts. Owen and Mero go back and forth in the ring while Steve Austin says on commentary that he's tired of being held down, but he's going to use that bitterness to take care of his opponents within the WWF. Austin now has a win at any cost attitude and Austin says it's working well. Double leapfrogs from Marc Mero result in a monkey flip, and Owen tries a monkey flip of his own but Mero keeps control of the arm. Owen then takes a back elbow, a back body drop and a body slam, and it really looks like the Wild Man has Owen's number here. Mero then misses a top rope senton, and this allows Owen to take advantage for a while. The King of Hearts wrenches down on Mero's neck and Owen hits a spinning wheel kick before delivering a backbreaker. Owen keeps the pressure on as we go to commercial break. Austin has left the commentary desk when we come back, and Vince McMahon says Austin was escorted back to the locker room to ensure he doesn't get involved in this match. Owen applies a Boston Crab as Sable looks on. The hold gets broke and Owen then hits a perfect plex. Owen jumps off the top rope, but Mero gets the knees up. Mero then begins firing up and Owen gets out of trouble by raking the eyes. Owen then sends the Wild Man to the corner, but Mero is able to counter. Hart gets pinned and the match is over. Mero continues on in the King of the Ring. Owen attacks Mero after the match. The Wild Man gets hit with the cast, and Owen tells the fans that Mero cheated because he attacked Owen's injured arm. Another good match from Raw. I was kinda dreading watching these King of the Ring quarterfinal matches, but so far, so good. Mean Gene Okerlund wants a word with the Dungeon of Doom, a faction that would soon become even more irrelevant than what they already are. Just like Benoit, the Taskmaster is sporting a few bruises after the Falls Count Anywhere match at the Bash. Mean Gene says there's cliques forming in WCW and there's multiple wars going on. The Dungeon of Doom versus the Horsemen, the Outsiders versus the WCW locker room, and of course we have this Monday Night War going on, but that's kept a little more subtle until Jimmy Hart tells the world that Kevin Sullivan was responsible for removing Brian Pillman from World Championship Wrestling. Remember, it was already announced on Raw that Pillman's WWF contract signing would get shown a little later. Sullivan talks about the Benoit match. He's upset that Double A decided to attack him after the match, and honestly, he really doesn't say much else, and it's clear he's completely forgotten the point of this promo. The Giant then says the Horsemen can't be the Elite because it's the Giant who holds the WCW title. There's no member of the Four Horsemen who's better than any member of the Dungeon of Doom. Seriously? And the Horsemen can't claim to be the best when the Giant has been unbeatable as of late. Mean Gene then says that at the end of tonight's show, Okerlund is going to announce the 3 men that's going to represent WCW in the Bash at the Beach Outsiders match. And as the Monday Nitro music plays to end the segment, Sullivan quickly remembers the whole point of this promo, and he quickly says that he doesn't care about the Horsemen and defending WCW against the Outsiders comes first. This is hilarious, but for all the wrong reasons. It's a point for Raw. A promo airs on Nitro that says our world is about to change, and whoa, what the fuck's going on here? It really is Sub-Zero. We finally get to see what these promos are all about with quick clips of Sub-Zero. We even see him breathing ice for a little moment. Will we see Scorpion also? Will we see Kano and Liu Kang? How did WCW pull this off? Well, this must be Glacier, and I can't wait to find out more in July. July? Fuck. July. It's fucking... Over on Raw, we have a few promos, one with the Bulldog, one with Jerry Lawler, and we also get to see the Brian Pillman signing. And then over on Nitro, we get a Great American Bash rematch. It's Dean Malenko versus Rey Mysterio Jr. We're getting spoiled on Nitro tonight, guys. We see screenshots of Bischoff getting powerbombed at the Great American Bash. Schiavone and Heenan tell us that Eric Bischoff is still in hospital, but the war has been accepted. Tonight we find out who's going to step up for WCW. Heenan has turned babyface. The story of WCW versus the Outsiders means more than the ongoing feuds and rivalries within the organisation. Mean Gene then interviews Rey Mysterio at the entranceway. Mysterio said that Malenko had to cheat last night in order to win, and so Rey wants to take the Cruiserweight title away from Dean Malenko tonight on Nitro. Neither man gains the initial advantage, but Rey is given plenty of opportunities to show off his abilities here. Rey makes the audience gasp as he does his thing during the opening portion of the match. Malenko hits a hard clothesline when Rey tries a head scissors. Dean hits a backbreaker and he keeps the pressure on afterwards. A single single leg Boston Crab is next, and Ray's getting folded up like an accordion here. A brainbuster follows, but Rey Mysterio kicks out, and the tenacity of Mysterio gets highlighted when he gets straight back into the ring after taking this beating, but he falls victim to an electric chair drop. An abdominal stretch gets locked in, but Rey refuses to give up, and Dean moves into an STF before drilling a knee into Mysterio's back. An insane snap powerbomb from Dean Malenko comes up next, and here, watch it again.
You were a part of what happened last night. Goodness.
Dean then delivers a fall-away slam, but Mysterio continues to kick out. The camel clutch is next, and then Dean decides to bring the fight to the outside. This was a mistake. Rey throws Dean into the guardrail, and then Rey hits a springboard Frankensteiner from the ring to the outside. Back inside the ring, Mysterio hits a top rope sunset flip, but it only gets him a 2 count. A head scissor to pin combination gets Rey a very close 2 count, and then Mysterio is able to shift his weight in midair while being scooped up for a body slam. This was pretty unique, but it isn't enough to win the match. Finally, Dean gets another opening and Rey gets planted with a reverse DDT. Malenko scores the win, and this was another good match in the books. The first promo on Raw is actually from a Superstars taping, and it was wise for the WWF to do this on occasion. It stops a superstar from getting exposed over and over again to the live Raw audience. It does kind of give a primitive feeling to the WWF's Monday Night show though. Jim Ross calls the Bulldog vs Shawn King of the Ring bout the most anticipated WWF rematch in decades, and I'd just like to call bullshit on that one. Davey Boy calls his wife Diana his most prized possession, and because Shawn tried to mess with Diana, Davey is going to take away Shawn's most prized possession, the WWF title. Davey calls the fans idiots. He's confident that he'll beat Shawn at the King of the Ring. Ross tells Davey that Shawn's in the arena and he's listening to Davey right now, and Davey says he doesn't give a frog's fat ass where Shawn Michael is. Seriously, check it out.
I don't give a frog's fat ass where Shawn Michael is.
Shawn Michaels hits the ring, a big fight breaks out. Officials Barry Horowitz and this geezer here try to break up the fight, but the two men keep going at each other. Nothing special at all here, but a frog's fat ass was definitely a highlight. Back on Raw, Aldo Montoya is in the ring ready for action, but Jerry Lawler wants to show Vince McMahon what's going to happen to the Ultimate Warrior at the King of the Ring. I'll spare you the details here. Lawler gets in the ring, he beats up Aldo, the piledriver gets delivered, and Jerry Lawler returns to his seat while promising to destroy the Ultimate Warrior at the pay-per-view. McMahon says that Montoya was supposed to face Hunter Hearst Helmsley here, by the way, but that doesn't matter. Up next, we have the contract signing of Brian Pillman that took place in Titan Towers. Now, I really recommend you check out my Brian Pillman in ECW video if you want an in-depth look at this time in Pillman's career. But Brian had been involved in a car accident and he would be out of action for quite some time. Vince McMahon still wanted to announce the signing of Brian Pillman, and you can put 2 and 2 together here. WCW had Nash and Hall, so Vince wanted to show that the WWF were fighting back with the signing of Brian Pillman. Pillman is quite upset at this signing. He'd been through quite a lot over the past few months, and Brian said he's gone from not knowing if he was going to live to signing a contract with the World Wrestling Federation. Pillman says this is a dream come true, and he thanks the WWF for welcoming him into the family. I wish we could have seen more of this. Vince McMahon said a transcript of the signing would be available on AOL after the Raw broadcast, but as far as I know, this is the only footage that ever aired of Brian Pillman joining the World Wrestling Federation. Raw would have won the point if they spent a little more time with Pillman, but because they didn't, the Malenko vs Mysterio match secures it. Our main events then, Goldust vs Jake Roberts on Raw in another King of the Ring quarter-final, and Nitro presents Scott Steiner vs The Giant. Seriously hoping Scott is allowed to suplex The Giant here, but let's see what happens. The WCW title is on the line as expected, and here we go. Steiner goes for a suplex right away, but he humps his opponent instead, goddammit. A body slam attempt follows. Steiner lifts up the Giant, but the Giant comes crashing down on top of Scott. This obviously isn't going too well. The Giant stands on Scott and the injured ribs become a target. The match goes to the outside and Steiner takes more punishment as we go to commercial break. We come back and the Giant is still destroying his opponent on the outside. Scott gets brought back inside the ring and it's more punishment being delivered to the ribs. The Giant applies a camel clutch. Steiner begins fighting out, but the Giant clubs Scott down to the mat. Scott just has no chance here as the Giant hits a leg drop on the future Big Papa Pump. Steiner then takes a big suplex before getting clotheslined over the top rope. The Giant grabs a wooden chair from under the ring, but Scott crotches the big man when the Giant steps over the top rope. Scott is then able to bring the Giant down and a sleeper gets applied, and the Giant rams Scott into the corner to break up the hold. The Giant then launches Steiner to the opposite corner and Scott gets his feet up. Scott then dodges another attack and then exploder suplex. Scott Steiner hits an exploder suplex on the Giant and the crowd goes absolutely nuts. So does Scott Steiner, to be fair. It isn't enough to end the match, but now Scott has a little more confidence. Steiner tries to beat down the big man, but it's doing no good. He decides to grab the wooden chair and Jimmy Hart tries to take it away. Jimmy ends up dying as a result of his bravery. Scott smashes the chair across the Giant's back, but it has no effect. We see the chokeslam and the match is over. Amazingly, this was another solid match this week on Reliving the War, and the final hour of Nitro has been fantastic this week. After the match, we go over to Mean Gene Okerlund to find out who Hall and Nash are going to face at Bash at the Beach. Mean Gene says the 6 names compiled by WCW to take on the Outsiders were Hulk Hogan, The Giant, Sting, Lex Luger, Ric Flair and Randy Savage. Out of those 6 men, a random draw was held backstage to choose which 3 will face the Outsiders. The 3 men chosen were Lex Luger, Sting and Randy Savage. Mean Gene reminds fans that the Outsiders still hadn't announced their mystery 3rd man. Jake Roberts versus Goldust on Raw, and let's reserve judgment until the end of the match. Goldust has the ability to turn this one around. Time wasting on the outside to start this one off. Harvey Whippleman is our referee. Remember, he's been having some issues with the WWF's officiating as of late, so it looks like he's taking matters into his own hands. Nobody cares. Goldust gets into the ring, Roberts begins a DDT chant, and this is enough to make Goldust go back to the outside, and yeah, at this point they're just prolonging the inevitable here. I wanted to see Goldust make Jake Roberts feel all uncomfortable and all that stuff, but it seems like Jake is getting the better of the bizarre one by doing absolutely nothing. Goldust gets back in the ring, he sees the snake, and he bails again, and I don't blame Goldust at all here. They were told to go out and waste time for the benefit of Jake's in-ring abilities, but those precious TV minutes could have been spent on other matches or promos instead of giving these 2 guys over 12 minutes of TV time. They even show footage of the Action Zone interview while all this is happening. Finally, the 2 lock up and, you guessed it, straight into a rest hold. I've never been so happy to see a man feel up another man when Goldust finally starts messing around with Jake, but it leads to Goldust once again leaving the ring. Jake is not in the mood to try new things, it seems, and the match just stops when Goldust gets back in the ring. No joke, Goldust just stands in the corner and the match just stops. Roberts smacks his opponent's rear end, so maybe Jake is feeling frisky enough to try something new tonight. And Jake then performs a painfully bad hip toss that leads to Jake's snake getting between the legs of Goldust. Oh fucking, what the hell is going on here? I'm totally lost. It gets better. Just to show everyone that Jake isn't totally shit, they show a quick 3-second clip of Jake hitting a DDT on Superstars. This is entertaining as hell, but for all the wrong reasons. We finally get something that resembles a wrestling match when Goldust goes on the attack. Jake gets his shoulder rammed into the ring post and he crumbles to the floor. Jerry Lawler tells Goldust to give CPR. Goldust gets Jake inside the ring and he gives his opponent a kiss. This fires Jake up and Goldust takes a kick to the midsection. Vince tells us that Mr. Perfect is here to tell us who the special referee is for the King of the Ring main event, but he quickly gets cut off when Jake misses a DDT attempt. Perfect comes back and he says we're going to find out who the referee is right after this match. Goldust sits on Jake's chest as we go to commercial break. When we come back, Jake hits the short arm clothesline. Marlena then puts actual Goldust in the hands of Goldust. She then distracts Whippleman, and Jake sells the glitter when it gets thrown in his eyes. Goldust wins via pinfall, but when Harvey notices that Jake has a face full of glitter, he decides to reverse the decision. Jake is now in the semi-finals of the King of the Ring. A blind Jake Roberts ends the segment by hitting the DDT on Goldust. As expected, Goldust turned this match around, but the time wasting was pretty unforgivable. A point for Monday Nitro. After the match, we see Jim Cornette with Mr. Perfect. Cornette says that the referee he's chosen for the King of the Ring had to be a guy who couldn't get bowled over like the rest of the WWF's officials. The referee had to have a lot of integrity and honesty, and after a lot of soul searching, Cornette has came up with the perfect choice. It's Mr. Perfect himself. Perfect says he's already shown he's the perfect referee at previous WrestleMania events, and at the King of the Ring, Mr. Perfect will call it right down the middle. Two very good episodes of Raw Nitro this week, even if the Raw main event was a little shaky. When comparing segments though, Nitro got an easy win. Raw only managed the 1 point this week. And yeah, this is to be expected. WCW is really turning up the heat. Nitro feels a whole lot fresher than Raw right now, and it's going to take the WWF a little time to get their act together. In the TV ratings, Nitro got the win with a 3.4 over Raw's 2.3. Welcome to the beginning of the fabled 83 weeks. The King of the Ring results will get covered next week as another superstar begins his journey to legendary status. And over on Nitro, we have a big three-way tag team main event. The Steiners versus Harlem Heat versus Sting and Lex Luger. I hope you join me next week, and thank you very, very much for watching.